Welcome to the Story Lab. I hope you enjoy this story. Let's begin. The sound of little feet pattering down the hallway woke me from a deep sleep. I opened my eyes just as our bedroom door burst open and two small figures came bounding in. "Daddy! Mommy! Wake up!" Jackson shouted, launching himself onto our bed. His sister Mia was close behind, giggling as she climbed up after him. I groaned and rolled over, wrapping an arm around my wife Lena. "5 more minutes, kids," I mumbled into her hair. Lena chuckled and sat up, pulling Jackson and Mia into a hug. "Good morning, my little monsters. Who wants pancakes?" "Me. Me," they chorused. I cracked an eye open to see Lena herding the kids out of the room. She glanced back at me with a smile. "I'll get them started on breakfast. You can sleep in a bit longer if you want." "You're an angel," I said, already drifting off again. When I finally dragged myself out of bed and made my way to the kitchen, I found Lena at the stove flipping pancakes while Jackson and Mia sat at the table coloring. "Morning, sleepyhead," Lena said as I came up behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist. I kissed her cheek. "Morning. Sorry for sleeping in. I was up late working on that new security protocol." She turned to face me, a slight frown creasing her brow. "Another late night? Ethan, you've been working so much lately. I'm worried about you." I know. But this project is huge. If it goes well, I could be in line for a big promotion." Lena sighed. "I just wish you didn't have to work so hard. Maybe if I went back to work, we could." I cut her off. "We've talked about this. The kids need you here. Besides, we're doing fine financially." "Are we, though?" Lena asked, lowering her voice so the kids wouldn't hear. "The bills keep piling up, and with Jackson starting school soon." "Hey," I said, taking her hands in mine. "I promise everything will be okay. Just trust me, all right?" She nodded, but I could see the worry lingering in her eyes. "Daddy," Mia called from the table. "Come see my drawing." I gave Lena's hands a squeeze before joining the kids. "Let's see this masterpiece, princess." As I admired Mia's colorful scribbles and helped Jackson with his math homework, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that Lena might be right. We were comfortable, sure, but not exactly living large. And with the kids growing up so fast? No. I pushed the thoughts away. This was my job as a husband and father to provide for my family. Lena's job was to take care of the kids. That's how it had always been, and that's how it would stay. After breakfast, I kissed Lena and the kids goodbye and headed to work. As I navigated through morning traffic, my phone buzzed with a text from my boss. "Meeting in my office as soon as you get in. Big news." My heart raced. Could this be about the promotion? I sped up, eager to find out. When I walked into the office, my coworker Tom waved me over. "Hey man, heard you got called into the big guy's office. What's that about?" I shrugged, trying to play it cool. "No idea. Guess I'll find out soon enough." Tom grinned and clapped me on the shoulder. "Well, good luck. Hope it's good news." I knocked on my boss's door, my palms sweating. "Come in, Ethan," he called. I stepped inside, forcing a calm smile. "Good morning, sir. You wanted to see me?" He gestured for me to sit. "I'll cut right to the chase. Your work on the new security protocol has been outstanding. The higher-ups have taken notice, and we'd like to offer you a promotion to senior cybersecurity analyst." My jaw dropped. "Sir, I don't know what to say." "Thank you." He smiled. "You've earned it, Ethan. There's just one catch." My stomach tightened. "What's that?" "The position requires some travel. Nothing too extreme, but you'd need to visit our satellite offices a few times a year for a week or two at a time. Is that going to be a problem?" I hesitated. Lena wouldn't like me being away from home, but this was too good an opportunity to pass up. "Not at all, sir," I said firmly. "I can make it work." "Excellent. We'll start the paperwork today. Congratulations, Ethan. You're going places in this company." As I left his office, my mind was spinning. How was I going to tell Lena? She'd be thrilled about the promotion. But the travel? I decided to wait until that evening to break the news. No sense worrying her over the phone. The rest of the day flew by in a blur. When I finally got home, I found Lena in the kitchen starting dinner while the kids played in the living room. "Hey, honey," I said, giving her a kiss. "How was your day?" She shrugged. Same old, same old. How about you? You seem different. I took a deep breath. Actually, I have some news. Can we talk after the kids are in bed? Lena's eyes widened. Is everything okay? Everything's great, I assured her. I promise. It's good news. I just want to discuss it without little ears around. She nodded slowly. All right. Dinner will be ready in about 20 minutes. Throughout dinner, I could feel Lena watching me, trying to figure out what was going on. I focused on the kids, asking about their day and laughing at their stories. Finally, after we'd tucked Jackson and Mia in, Lena and I settled on the couch. Okay, spill, she said. What's this big news? I couldn't hold back my grin any longer. I got promoted to senior cybersecurity analyst. Lena's face lit up. Ethan, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you. She threw her arms around me, and for a moment, everything was perfect. Then she pulled back, a slight frown on her face. Wait, is this why you've been working so many late nights? I nodded. I wanted to prove myself, show them I was ready for more responsibility. And it paid off, Lena said, squeezing my hand. So what does this promotion mean? Better hours? More money? Here it was, the moment of truth. Well, the pay raise is significant, I started. But there is one small catch. Lena's smile faded. What kind of catch? I took a deep breath. I'll need to travel a bit, just a few times a year, for a week or two at a time. Lena pulled her hand away. Travel? Ethan, we have 2 young kids. How am I supposed to manage on my own for weeks at a time? It won't be that often, I said, trying to reassure her. And think of the financial stability this will bring us. We could start saving for the kids' college funds, maybe even take that vacation we've been talking about. Lena stood up, pacing the living room. A vacation won't make up for you being gone. The kids need their father. I'll still be here most of the time, I argued. This is a huge opportunity for our family, Lena. I thought you'd be happy. She whirled to face me. Happy that my husband will be gone even more than he already is? That I'll be stuck here alone with the kids while you're off in some fancy hotel? I felt my temper rising. Stuck here? I thought you wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Now suddenly it's a burden? That's not what I meant, and you know it, Lena snapped. I love our kids, but being a full-time parent is exhausting. And now you want to add even more to my plate? I stood up, trying to keep my voice low so we wouldn't wake the kids. I'm doing this for us, for our family. Why can't you see that? Lena's eyes filled with tears. Because it feels like you're choosing your career over us. Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. That's not fair. Everything I do for this family. We stared at each other in tense silence for a long moment. Finally, Lena sighed. I'm going to bed. We can talk about this more tomorrow when we've both had some time to think. As she walked away, I called after her, Lena, wait. But she just shook her head and disappeared into our bedroom, closing the door behind her. I sank back onto the couch, running my hands through my hair. This wasn't how I'd imagined this conversation going at all. I'd thought Lena would be thrilled about the promotion, about the financial security it would bring us. Instead, I'd managed to start a fight and hurt the woman I loved. As I sat there in the dark living room, I couldn't help but wonder, had I made the right choice? Was this promotion worth the strain it might put on my family? I didn't have any answers. All I knew was that somehow, I had to find a way to make this work. For Lena, for the kids, and for our future together. With a heavy heart, I finally went to bed, slipping in beside Lena's sleeping form. As I drifted off, I silently promised myself that I would find a way to make her understand. Somehow, I had to convince her that this was the best thing for all of us. The warm Miami sun beat down on us as Lena and I stepped out of the taxi at our hotel. After weeks of tension following my promotion announcement, we decided this vacation was exactly what we needed to reconnect. Can you believe we're finally here? Lena said, squeezing my hand. I grinned at her excitement. It still feels surreal. No kids, no work, just us for a whole week. As we walked into the lobby, Lena's eyes widened. Ethan, this place is gorgeous. How did you manage to book this? Let's just say the promotion came with some perks, I said, wrapping an arm around her waist. We approached the check-in desk, where a friendly attendant greeted us. "Welcome to Paradise Palms." "Checking in?" "Yes, reservation for Ethan Ward," I said. As she typed on her computer, I noticed another couple nearby, arguing in hushed tones. The man, tall with slicked back hair, seemed to be berating the woman. "Is everything all right?" the attendant asked, drawing my attention back. "Oh, yes, sorry," I said, just a bit distracted from the trip. She smiled. "No worries. You're all set. Here are your room keys. Enjoy your stay." As we turned to head to the elevators, we nearly collided with the couple I'd noticed earlier. "Watch where you're going," the man snapped. I instinctively stepped in front of Lena. "Sorry about that. No harm done, right?" The woman touched the man's arm. "Kyle, it's fine. Let's just go." Kyle glared at us for a moment before his face shifted into an artificial smile. "No, you're right, Monica. My apologies. I'm Kyle, and this is my wife, Monica. Are you folks just checking in?" Lena, always the friendly one, answered, "Yes, we just arrived. I'm Lena, and this is my husband, Ethan." Monica's eyes lit up. "Oh, how lovely. We've been here for a few days already. You're going to love it." I nodded politely, eager to get to our room and away from Kyle's unsettling presence. But Lena had other ideas. "We should all get drinks later," she suggested. "It'd be nice to have some company." Before I could object, Kyle jumped in. "Fantastic idea. Meet us at the poolside bar around 7? "Sounds great," Lena said. As we walked away, I leaned in close to Lena. "Are you sure about this? That guy seems like bad news." Lena rolled her eyes. "Don't be so judgmental, Ethan. We're on vacation. Let's have some fun and meet new people." In our room, I tried to push my unease aside and focus on Lena. We unpacked, changed into our swimwear, and headed down to the beach. As we lounged on our towels, Lena turned to me. "This is perfect. Thank you for planning this trip." I leaned over to kiss her. "Anything for you. I know things have been tough lately with the promotion and all. I want you to know how much I appreciate you." Lena's smile faltered slightly. "I appreciate you too. I just wish—" "What?" I prompted. She sighed. "I wish you understood why I want to work. It's not just about the money, Ethan. I miss having a purpose outside of being a mom." I sat up, frowning. "Being a mom is the most important job there is. The kids need you." "I know that," Lena said, her voice rising slightly, "but they're in school now. I could work part-time at least." I shook my head. "We've talked about this. With my new position, I'll be making more than enough. There's no need for you to work." Lena opened her mouth to argue further, but then seemed to think better of it. "Let's not do this now. We're supposed to be relaxing, remember?" I nodded, relieved to drop the subject. We spent the rest of the afternoon swimming and sunbathing, the earlier tension slowly melting away. As evening approached, we headed back to our room to get ready for drinks with Kyle and Monica. I still had reservations, but seeing Lena excited about making new friends, I decided to keep my concerns to myself. We arrived at the poolside bar to find Kyle and Monica already there, cocktails in hand. "There they are," Kyle called out, waving us over. "What's your poison?" I ordered a beer while Lena opted for a fruity cocktail. As we settled into our seats, Kyle launched into a story about his latest business deal. So there I was, this guy trying to lowball me, and I said, "Listen, pal, you either meet my price, or you can kiss this contract goodbye." Kyle laughed loudly at his own story. Monica smiled indulgently. "Kyle's the best negotiator I know. No one can pull one over on him." I nodded politely, not particularly impressed. "So, what kind of business are you in, Kyle?" He waved his hand vaguely. "Oh, a bit of this, a bit of that. Import, export, mostly. Nothing as exciting as your line of work, I'm sure." "Lena tells us you're in cybersecurity?" "That's right," I said, surprised Lena had shared that information. Kyle leaned in, his eyes gleaming. "Must be a lucrative field. Bet you make a pretty penny keeping all those corporate secrets safe, huh?" Something about his tone set me on edge. "It pays the bills," I said noncommittally. Lena jumped in, clearly sensing my discomfort. "Ethan just got a big promotion, actually. That's why we're here celebrating." Monica clapped her hands. "Oh, how wonderful. We should toast to that. As she raised her glass, Kyle's eyes raked over Lena in a way that made my skin crawl. Yes, let's toast. To Ethan's success and to his beautiful wife. I clenched my jaw, ready to say something, but Lena just laughed it off. You're too kind, Kyle. But really, it's all Ethan. He works so hard for our family. Kyle smirked. I'm sure he does. But a woman like you, Lena, you could be doing so much more than just playing housewife, couldn't you? That was it. I'd had enough. Excuse me, I said, my voice tight. But I don't appreciate the way you're talking about my wife. Kyle held up his hands in mock surrender. Whoa, easy there, big guy. I meant no disrespect. I just hate to see talent go to waste, that's all. Lena put a hand on my arm. Ethan, it's fine. He didn't mean anything by it. But I was already standing up. I think we're done here. Lena, are you coming? She looked torn, glancing between me and our new friends. Finally, she sighed and stood up. I'm sorry, Kyle, Monica. Maybe we can catch up another time? As we walked away, I could hear Kyle's laughter behind us. Looks like someone can't take a joke. Back in our room, Lena rounded on me. What was that about? You completely overreacted. Overreacted? I sputtered. Did you not hear the way he was talking to you? About you? Lena threw up her hands. He was being friendly. You're the one who turned it into something ugly. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Friendly? Lena, he was practically undressing you with his eyes. And all that talk about you wasting your talents, he was deliberately trying to cause problems between us. Oh, so now you're an expert on my talents? Lena shot back. You certainly don't seem to think I'm wasting anything by staying home with the kids. I ran a hand through my hair, frustrated. That's not what this is about. I'm trying to protect you. Protect me? Lena laughed bitterly. I don't need protection, Ethan. I need a husband who trusts me and doesn't embarrass me in front of new friends. We glared at each other for a long moment before Lena finally turned away. I'm going to take a shower. Try to calm down before I get out. Okay? This is supposed to be a romantic vacation, remember? As the bathroom door closed behind her, I sank onto the bed, my head in my hands. How had things gone so wrong so quickly? And why couldn't Lena see Kyle for the creep he clearly was? I had a sinking feeling that this vacation was about to become a lot more complicated than I'd bargained for. The next morning, I woke up to find Lena's side of the bed empty. A note on her pillow read, "Gone shopping with Monica. Back later." XO. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. This wasn't how I'd imagined our vacation going. As I got dressed, my phone buzzed with a text from Lena. Having lunch with Monica and Kyle. Join us if you want. Beach restaurant. I debated for a moment before deciding to go. Maybe I could smooth things over and salvage our trip. When I arrived at the restaurant, I spotted Lena immediately. She was wearing a new outfit, far more revealing than anything I'd ever seen her in before. Kyle sat next to her, his arm casually draped over the back of her chair. Ethan, Lena called out, waving me over. Look what Monica helped me pick out. Isn't it great? I forced a smile. It's different. You look nice. Kyle grinned. Different? Come on, man. Your wife's a knockout. You should be proud to have her on your arm. I clenched my jaw. I am proud of my wife, regardless of what she wears. Monica laughed, a high, tinkling sound. Oh, Ethan, learn to take a compliment for your wife. Kyle's just being friendly. Lena nodded. See? I told you they're harmless. Sit down, have a drink with us. I sat, feeling increasingly uncomfortable as the conversation flowed around me. Kyle dominated, telling outrageous stories that had Lena and Monica in stitches. I couldn't help but notice how often his eyes lingered on Lena, or how he found excuses to touch her arm or shoulder. So, Ethan, Kyle said suddenly, Lena tells us you're not keen on her going back to work. What's that about? I stiffened. I don't think that's any of your business. Lena frowned. Ethan, don't be rude. Kyle's just making conversation. Yeah, Ethan, Kyle smirked. Just making conversation. I mean, it's the 21st century. Shouldn't a woman be able to choose for herself? I leaned forward. And shouldn't a man respect another man's marriage? The table fell silent. Lena's face flushed with embarrassment. "I think we should go," she said quietly. As we walked back to our room, Lena rounded on me. "What is wrong with you? Why are you being so hostile?" "Me?" I sputtered. "Lena, can't you see what's happening here? Kyle's clearly interested in you, and you're just what?" she challenged. "Having fun for once? Making friends? God forbid I enjoy myself on this vacation." I ran a hand over my face. "That's not what I meant. I'm worried about you. These people, they're not good influences." Lena's eyes flashed. "Not good influences? I'm not a child, Ethan. I can make my own decisions." "Can you?" I shot back. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're letting Kyle and Monica manipulate you." She threw up her hands. "You're impossible. I'm going out." "Where?" I asked, a sinking feeling in my stomach. "Clubbing. With Kyle and Monica." She grabbed her purse. "Don't wait up." Before I could protest, she was gone. I spent the night pacing our room, checking my phone obsessively. No messages, no calls. As the sun began to rise, I finally accepted the truth. Lena wasn't coming home. The sound of my phone ringing jolted me awake. I fumbled for it, hope surging when I saw Lena's name on the screen. But it wasn't a call, it was a text message. "Going on a cruise with Kyle for a few weeks. Need time to think. Sorry." I stared at the words, unable to comprehend what I was reading. This couldn't be happening. I dialed Lena's number, but it went straight to voicemail. "Lena, what's going on? Call me back immediately. We need to talk about this." I rushed to the closet, yanking it open. My heart sank. Most of Lena's clothes were gone. How had I slept through her packing? How could she do this? I called the front desk. "This is Ethan Ward in room 312. Has my wife checked out?" The receptionist's voice was apologetic. "I'm sorry, Mr. Ward, but Mrs. Ward checked out about an hour ago. She left a note for you at the desk. Would you like me to send it up?" I swallowed hard. "Yes, please." Minutes later, a knock at the door. I opened it to find a young bellhop holding an envelope. "Your wife's note, sir." I tore it open with shaking hands. "Ethan, I'm sorry to do this, but I need some time away. This trip has made me realize how much I've been missing out on life. Kyle and Monica have invited me on a cruise, and I've decided to go. I know you won't understand, but please try. I'll be in touch when I can. Lena." I crumpled the note in my fist. This couldn't be real. How could Lena just leave like this? What about our kids? Our life together? I pulled out my phone again, dialing my best friend, James. "Ethan? What's wrong, man? You sound terrible." I took a shaky breath. "It's Lena. She's gone, James. She left with another man." James's voice sharpened. "What? Start from the beginning. Tell me everything." As I recounted the events of the past few days, James listened quietly. When I finished, he spoke carefully. "Ethan, I hate to say this, but it sounds like Lena might have been planning this. The new clothes, spending time with these people. Are you sure nothing else was going on before the trip?" I shook my head, even though he couldn't see me. "No, everything was fine. I mean, we had that argument about her wanting to work. But, God, James, what am I going to do? What about the kids?" "First things first," James said firmly. "You need to get home. I'll book you a flight. Then we'll figure out what to do next." "Have you called her parents?" I hadn't even thought of that. "No, not yet. I don't know what to tell them." "Don't worry about that now. Just pack your things and get to the airport. I'll take care of everything else." As I hung up, I felt like I was moving through a fog. How had my life fallen apart so quickly? And more importantly, how was I going to put it back together? The house felt empty without Lena. Jackson and Mia were staying with my parents, thankfully unaware of the turmoil in their parents' lives. I'd been home for 3 days, and still no word from Lena. James sat across from me at the kitchen table, his expression grim. "Any luck with the cruise line?" I shook my head. "They won't give me any information. Privacy policies." "What about her credit cards? Any activity?" "Nothing," I said, running a hand through my hair. "It's like she's vanished." James leaned forward. "Ethan, I hate to ask this, but is there any chance Lena planned this? That she wanted to leave?" I stood up abruptly, pacing the kitchen. No, absolutely not. We were happy, James. We had a good life. Were you? James pressed gently. You mentioned she wanted to go back to work, that you two were arguing about it. I spun to face him. So what? Couples argue. It doesn't mean she'd abandon her family. James held up his hands. I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to understand. Have you tried calling Kyle and Monica? I snorted. Of course. Their numbers are disconnected. It's like they never existed. What about the hotel? Did you get any information from them? I shook my head. Nothing useful. They checked out the same day as Lena. James was quiet for a moment. Ethan, I think it's time we consider involving the police. I sank back into my chair. And tell them what? That my wife went on vacation with another man? They'll laugh me out of the station. We tell them that your wife is missing, James said firmly. That she left without warning and hasn't been in contact. That's enough to file a report. I nodded slowly. Okay, let's do it. As we drove to the police station, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. This wasn't like Lena. No matter how unhappy she might have been, she would never abandon our children like this. At the station, we sat across from a detective, recounting the events of the past week. And you're sure she left willingly? The detective asked, scribbling notes. I hesitated. She left a note. But it didn't sound like her. Something's not right. I can feel it. The detective looked up. Mr. Ward, I understand you're worried. But from what you've told me, it sounds like your wife chose to leave. Without evidence of foul play, there's not much we can do. But she's been gone for days. I protested. She hasn't called, hasn't used her credit cards. That's not like her. The detective sighed. Look, we'll file a missing persons report. But I have to be honest with you, if she left on her own and is traveling with friends, it's unlikely we'll be able to do much. As we left the station, I felt deflated. James clapped a hand on my shoulder. Don't give up, Ethan. We'll find her. I nodded, trying to believe him. But as the days turned into weeks with no word from Lena, I couldn't shake the fear that something terrible had happened. And worse, that I might never know the truth. The sound of keys in the front door jolted me awake. I sat up on the couch, my heart racing. It couldn't be. Ethan? Are you home? Lena's voice. I stumbled to my feet, hardly daring to believe it. She stood in the doorway, looking tanned and relaxed, as if she'd just returned from a normal vacation. Lena? I whispered. Is it really you? She smiled, dropping her bags. Of course it's me. Who else would it be? I crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling her into a tight embrace. Then, just as quickly, I pushed her away. Where the hell have you been? I demanded. Do you have any idea what you've put me through? What you've put the kids through? Lena's smile faltered. I told you, I went on a cruise with Kyle and Monica. Didn't you get my message? I gaped at her. A message? You left a note saying you were going away for a few weeks. It's been over a month, Lena. We've been worried sick. She waved a hand dismissively. Oh, don't be so dramatic. I needed some time away, that's all. Where are the kids? With my parents, I said, still struggling to process her nonchalant attitude. I couldn't exactly take care of them while searching for my missing wife, could I? Lena rolled her eyes. Missing? I wasn't missing, Ethan. I was on vacation. A vacation you didn't tell me about. I shouted. A vacation with a man who's been hitting on you since we met him. What am I supposed to think? You're supposed to trust me, Lena shot back. Kyle is harmless. We're just friends. I laughed bitterly. Friends? Is that why you left your family without a word? To be friends with Kyle? Lena's eyes flashed. Maybe I left because I'm tired of being treated like a child. You never listened to me, Ethan. I told you I wanted to work, to have a life outside of this house, but you shut me down every time. So this is my fault? I asked incredulously. I'm the bad guy because I want to provide for my family? No, you're the bad guy because you don't respect me. Lena yelled. Kyle and Monica treat me like an adult. They see my potential. I stepped closer, my voice low and intense. And what exactly is your potential with Kyle, Lena? Because from where I'm standing, it looks an awful lot like an affair. Lena's hand connected with my cheek, the slap echoing in the quiet house. How dare you? She hissed. I have never been unfaithful to you. I rubbed my stinging cheek. Then explain it to me, Lena. Make me understand how abandoning your family for weeks is okay. She took a deep breath. I told you. I needed time to think, to figure out what I want from life. Kyle and Monica, they helped me see things differently. Different how? I pressed. Lena sighed. They showed me that there's more to life than being a wife and mother, that I can have dreams and ambitions of my own. And you couldn't have figured that out here? With me? I asked, my voice breaking. She shook her head. You don't understand. You've never understood. We stood in silence for a long moment, the weight of unspoken words hanging between us. Finally, I spoke. I think we need some time apart. For real this time. Lena's eyes widened. What are you saying? I'm saying I don't know if I can trust you anymore, I said quietly. And I'm not sure I even know who you are right now. Tears filled Lena's eyes. Ethan, please. We can work this out. I love you. I stepped back, shaking my head. If you loved me, you wouldn't have left like that. You wouldn't have put our family through this hell. So that's it? Lena asked, her voice rising. You're just giving up on us? I'm not the one who gave up, I said firmly. You did that when you chose Kyle and Monica over your family. Lena's face crumpled. I made a mistake, Ethan. I see that now. Please, give me another chance. I closed my eyes, fighting back my own tears. I don't know if I can, Lena. I need time to think. As I walked out of the house, leaving Lena sobbing in the living room, I felt like my world was crumbling around me. How had we gotten here? And more importantly, where do we go from here? A week after Lena's return, I sat in our kitchen, staring at my coffee. The kids were back home, but the tension in the house was palpable. A knock at the door startled me from my thoughts. I opened it to find Monica standing there, a dazzling smile on her face. Ethan, it's so good to see you. I frowned. Monica, what are you doing here? She held up a gift-wrapped box. I came to apologize. May I come in? Against my better judgment, I stepped aside. Monica breezed past me, setting the box on the counter. Where's Lena? She asked, glancing around. Upstairs with the kids, I replied. Monica, I don't think. She cut me off. Ethan, I know you're upset about the cruise, but you have to understand. We were just trying to help Lena find herself. I scoffed. Find herself? She abandoned her family for weeks. Monica's eyes widened. Oh, Ethan, no. It wasn't like that at all. We were helping her realize her potential. Don't you want Lena to be happy? Of course I do, I snapped. But then let her explore, Monica interrupted. Let her grow. Kyle and we see how special Lena is. We want to nurture that. I shook my head. I don't trust Kyle. The way he looks at Lena. Monica laughed. Oh, that's just Kyle being Kyle. He's harmless, I promise. In fact, we want to invite you both on another trip. To make up for everything? Absolutely not, I said firmly. Monica's smile faltered. Ethan, please. We feel terrible about how things turned out. This is our way of making amends. She pushed the gift towards me. At least open this. It's a peace offering. Reluctantly, I unwrapped the box. Inside was an expensive-looking watch. Monica, I can't accept this, I said. Of course you can, she insisted. It's the least we can do. And please, consider the trip. It would mean so much to Lena. Before I could respond, Lena's voice came from the stairs. Monica? Is that you? Monica's face lit up. Lena. Oh, it's so good to see you. The two women embraced, chattering excitedly. I stood back, watching their interaction with growing unease. Ethan, did Monica tell you about the trip? Lena asked, her eyes shining. I nodded curtly. She did. And I think it's a bad idea. Lena's face fell. But Ethan, it could be just what we need to reconnect. Reconnect? I echoed. Lena, we need to focus on our family, not gallivanting off with people we barely know. Monica stepped in. Ethan, I understand your concerns. But this trip could be a fresh start for all of us. Why don't you sleep on it? I looked between the two women, feeling cornered. Fine, I conceded. I'll think about it. As Monica left, Lena turned to me, her expression pleading. Ethan, please. Give them a chance. Give us a chance. I sighed, the weight of the decision heavy on my shoulders. I'll think about it, Lena. That's all I can promise for now. Against my better judgment, I found myself packing for another trip with Kyle and Monica. Lena's persistent pleas and promises of a fresh start had worn me down. As we boarded the plane, Kyle clapped me on the back. Glad you decided to join us, buddy. This is going to be a trip to remember. I forced a smile. Yeah, sure. Once we arrived at the resort, Monica pulled Lena aside. I got you something special for the beach. Come on, let's go try it on. They disappeared into Monica's room, leaving me alone with Kyle. So, Ethan, Kyle said, his tone casual. How are things with you and Lena? I shrugged. We're working on it. Kyle nodded. You know, sometimes a man needs to let his woman spread her wings. Let her explore. I bristled. And sometimes a man needs to respect other people's marriages. Kyle held up his hands. Whoa, easy there. I'm just trying to help. Before I could respond, Lena and Monica returned. My jaw dropped. Lena was wearing the most revealing bikini I'd ever seen. What do you think? Lena asked, twirling. I struggled to find words. Lena, it's a bit much, don't you think? Monica laughed. Oh, Ethan, don't be such a prude. Lena looks amazing. Doesn't she, Kyle? Kyle's eyes raked over Lena. Absolutely stunning. I clenched my fists. I think I need some air. I stormed out of the room, my mind racing. This was a mistake. I should never have agreed to this trip. Hours later, I returned to find our room empty. A note on the bed read, Gone dancing with Kyle and Monica. Don't wait up. My heart sank. I tried calling Lena, but it went straight to voicemail. As the night wore on, my anxiety grew. Finally, around 3 a.m., I heard giggling in the hallway. Our door opened, and Lena stumbled in, supported by Kyle. Oh, hey, Ethan, Lena slurred. You didn't have to wait up. Kyle smirked. I'll just make sure she gets to bed safely. I stepped between them. I've got it from here, Kyle. As I helped Lena into bed, she mumbled, Kyle's so fun. Why can't you be more like Kyle? Those words echoed in my head as I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. When morning came, I'd made my decision. This marriage was over. Weeks had passed since our disastrous trip. Lena hadn't come home, and my calls went unanswered. I paced our living room, phone in hand. Still nothing? James asked from the couch. I shook my head. Not a word. It's like she's vanished. James leaned forward. Ethan, I hate to say this, but I think it's time we consider the worst. What do you mean? I asked, though I feared I already knew. James sighed. I've been doing some digging on Kyle and Monica. Something's not right with those two. I sank into a chair. Tell me. They've got a history of befriending couples, then disappearing with the wife, James explained. I think they might be involved in something illegal. My blood ran cold. You don't think? James nodded grimly. Human trafficking. It fits the pattern. I jumped to my feet. We have to find her, James. If what you're saying is true, we will, James assured me. But we need to be smart about this. Let's start by retracing their steps. We spent days investigating, following every lead. Finally, we found ourselves back at the resort where we'd last seen Lena. Excuse me, I said to the receptionist. I'm looking for my wife. She was here a few weeks ago with Kyle and Monica? The receptionist's face paled. I'm sorry, sir. I can't discuss other guests. James stepped in, flashing his old detective badge. This is a missing persons case. Any information you have could be crucial. The receptionist hesitated, then leaned in. They checked out suddenly, left in the middle of the night. But there was something odd. What? I pressed. I overheard them arguing, she whispered. The woman your wife, she seemed scared. And Kyle? He said something about the client being impatient. My heart raced. Did you hear where they were going? She shook her head. I'm sorry. That's all I know. As we left the resort, James put a hand on my shoulder. We need to go to the police, Ethan. This is bigger than us. I nodded, a mix of fear and determination coursing through me. Let's go. It's time to bring Lena home. The police station buzzed with activity as James and I approached the desk sergeant. Can I help you? He asked. I took a deep breath. I need to report a missing person. My wife, Lena Ward. The sergeant raised an eyebrow. When did you last see her? 3 weeks ago, I said. She went on a trip with some friends, Kyle and Monica. We haven't heard from her since. James stepped forward. Officer, we have reason to believe this may be connected to a human trafficking ring. The sergeant's expression sharpened. That's a serious accusation. What evidence do you have? We spent the next hour detailing everything we knew about Kyle and Monica, their pattern of behavior, and Lena's disappearance. We'll look into it, the sergeant said finally. But I have to warn you, without concrete evidence. I understand, I interrupted. But please, you have to do something. My wife is out there, possibly in danger. The sergeant nodded. We'll do everything we can. In the meantime, I suggest you go home and wait. We'll contact you if we find anything. As we left the station, James turned to me. What now? I clenched my jaw. Now? Now we take matters into our own hands. Lena's out there somewhere, and I'm not going to sit around waiting for the police to find her. James nodded grimly. I was hoping you'd say that. I've got some old contacts we can reach out to. If Kyle and Monica are involved in trafficking, someone in the underworld might know something. I looked at my friend, gratitude washing over me. Thank you, James. I couldn't do this without you. He clapped me on the shoulder. That's what friends are for. Now, let's go find your wife. As we walked away from the police station, a new determination filled me. I would find Lena, no matter what it took. I'll get my answers. Kyle and Monica? They would pay for what they'd done. As time passed, my anger towards Lena grew, and the weight of Lena's betrayal crushed me as I sat in my lawyer's office, staring at the divorce papers before me. My hand trembled as I reached for the pen. Are you sure about this, Ethan? My lawyer, Sarah, asked gently. I nodded, my jaw clenched. I've never been more certain of anything in my life. As I signed my name, memories of happier times flashed through my mind. Our wedding day, the birth of our children. But those memories were tainted now, overshadowed by the image of Lena leaving with Kyle. What about the children? Sarah prompted. I want sole custody, I said firmly. Lena abandoned them. She doesn't deserve to be in their lives. Sarah frowned. That might be difficult to prove without evidence of negligence or abuse. I leaned forward, my voice low and determined. Then we'll get that evidence. I have a friend, James, a retired detective. He can help us build a case. Ethan, Sarah cautioned, be careful. We can't do anything illegal. I know, I assured her. But Lena's been gone for weeks. No contact, no explanation. That has to count for something, right? Sarah nodded slowly. It does. We can file for emergency temporary custody based on abandonment. But we'll need to prove she left voluntarily. I pulled out my phone, showing Sarah the last message I'd received from Lena. Will this help? She said she was going on a cruise with Kyle. Sarah's eyes widened as she read the message. This is definitely a start, but we'll need more. Can your friend James help gather additional evidence? I'll call him right away, I said, standing up. Thank you, Sarah. I know this won't be easy, but I have to protect my children. As I left the office, I dialed James's number. He picked up on the second ring. Ethan? Any news about Lena? No, I replied, my voice tight. But I need your help, James. I'm filing for divorce and sole custody. Can you help me gather evidence of Lena's disappearance and abandonment? There was a pause on the other end of the line. Are you sure about this, Ethan? It's a big step. I'm sure, I said firmly. Lena made her choice when she left with Kyle. Now I'm making mine. James sighed. All right, I'll do what I can. But Ethan, be prepared. We might uncover things you don't want to know. A chill ran down my spine at his words. What do you mean? I've been doing some digging, James explained. Kyle and Monica, there's something off about them. I can't put my finger on it yet, but my gut tells me they're involved in something dangerous. I swallowed hard. remembering Kyle's leering gaze and Monica's manipulative behavior. Whatever it is, James, I need to know. For the sake of my kids. Understood, James replied. I'll start working on it right away. In the meantime, focus on taking care of Jackson and Mia. They need you now more than ever. As I hung up the phone, I felt a mix of determination and dread. Whatever James uncovered, I knew our lives would never be the same. But I had to be strong for my children and for myself. I drove home, my mind racing with all that needed to be done. As I walked through the front door, I was greeted by the sound of Jackson and Mia arguing over a toy. "Daddy!" Mia cried, running to me with tears in her eyes. Jackson won't share. I scooped her up in my arms, forcing a smile onto my face. "Hey, sweetheart, let's go talk to your brother, okay?" As I settled the dispute between my children, I realized that this was my new reality. Single fatherhood, juggling work and home, all while navigating the murky waters of divorce and custody battles. It wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. That night, after tucking the kids into bed, I sat alone in the living room, staring at a framed photo of our once happy family. With a heavy heart, I turned the frame face down. It was time to move forward, no matter how painful the journey might be. Days turned into weeks as James and I worked tirelessly to uncover the truth about Lena's disappearance. We'd hit dead end after dead end, but James's determination never wavered. One evening, as I was helping Mia with her homework, my phone buzzed with a message from James. "Meet me at the diner. Now, bring your laptop." I frowned, glancing at the clock. It was already past the kids' bedtime. "Mia, sweetie, I need to step out for a bit. Can you be a big girl and get ready for bed on your own?" Mia looked up from her math worksheet, her eyes wide. "Is it about Mommy?" My heart clenched. "I'm not sure, honey, but I promise I'll tell you everything when I know more, okay?" After making sure both kids were settled, I rushed to the diner where James was waiting, his face grim. "What's going on?" I asked as I slid into the booth across from him. James leaned forward, his voice low. "I've uncovered something big, Ethan. Really big. But I need you to brace yourself. This isn't going to be easy to hear." I nodded, my mouth dry. "Just tell me." "Kyle and Monica," James began. "They're not who they claim to be. They're part of an international human trafficking ring." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What? That's impossible. Lena wouldn't." James held up a hand. "Lena didn't know. None of the women do, at first. They're lured in with promises of adventure, luxury, a chance to feel young and desired again. But it's all a trap." I shook my head, struggling to process the information. "But Lena left willingly. She sent me that message about the cruise." "That message was likely sent under duress," James explained. "Once they get the women away from their families, they move them quickly, crossing borders before anyone realizes what's happening." My mind raced, piecing together the fragments of information. "So Lena, she's..." James nodded solemnly. "I believe she's being held against her will, along with other women, and if my sources are correct, she might be in immediate danger. There's talk of a sale to a particularly dangerous buyer." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Despite everything that had happened, the thought of Lena in danger made my blood run cold. "We have to do something," I said, my voice shaking. "We have to get her out of there." "We will," James assured me, "but we need to be smart about this. One wrong move, and we could put Lena and the other women in even more danger." I ran a hand through my hair, feeling overwhelmed. "What do we do?" "First," James said, "we need to compile all the evidence we have. That's where your laptop comes in. I need you to access any communications you had with Lena, Kyle, or Monica. Emails, text messages, social media, anything that might give us a clue about their movements or plans." I nodded, pulling out my laptop and logging in. As I scrolled through old messages, each one felt like a knife to the heart. How could I have been so blind? "Here," I said, pointing to a series of messages from Monica. "She kept trying to get us to go on these exclusive trips. I thought it was just her being pushy, but now..." James leaned in, studying the screen. "Good catch. Those locations match up with known trafficking routes. This is exactly what we need. For the next few hours, we pored over every scrap of information we could find. With each revelation, the scope of the operation became clearer and more terrifying. Ethan, James said finally, his voice grave, we have enough here to take to the authorities. But you need to understand what this means. If we do this, it's going to become a major investigation. Lena's involvement, willing or not, will become public knowledge. Are you prepared for that? I closed my eyes, thinking of Jackson and Mia. How would this affect them? But then I thought of Lena, trapped and afraid, and all the other women in the same situation. We have to do it, I said firmly. Whatever the consequences, we can't let this continue. James nodded, a hint of pride in his eyes. All right, I'll make the call. But Ethan, promise me something. Anything, I replied. Let the authorities handle this from here on out. Don't try to play hero. Your kids need you safe. I wanted to argue, to insist on being part of the rescue. But I knew James was right. I had to think of Jackson and Mia first. I promise, I said reluctantly. As James stepped away to make the call, I sat back in the booth, my mind reeling. How had our lives come to this? A few months ago, we were a normal, happy family. Now, everything had fallen apart in ways I could never have imagined. But as I listened to James relaying the information to his contacts, I felt a glimmer of hope. We might have lost our old life, but there was still a chance to save Lena and countless other women from a terrible fate. Whatever happened next, I knew our lives would never be the same. But for the first time in weeks, I felt like we were moving in the right direction. The truth, no matter how painful, was finally coming to light. The next few days were a blur of activity. FBI agents swarmed our town, questioning everyone who had ever interacted with Kyle and Monica. Our quiet neighborhood became the center of a media frenzy, with reporters camped out on every corner. I did my best to shield Jackson and Mia from the chaos, but it was impossible to hide everything. They knew something big was happening, something related to their mother's disappearance. "Daddy," Jackson asked one morning, his voice small and scared. "Is Mom in trouble?" I knelt down, looking him in the eye. "Mom is in a difficult situation, buddy, but a lot of very brave people are working to help her and bring her home." Mia tugged on my sleeve. "When will we see her?" My heart ached at the hope in her eyes. "I don't know, sweetheart, but I promise, as soon as I know anything, I'll tell you both." As I hugged them close, my phone buzzed with a message from James. "It's happening. Turn on the news." With shaking hands, I reached for the remote and switched on the TV. The kids and I watched in stunned silence as a breaking news alert flashed across the screen. The newscaster's voice filled the room. "We're bringing you live coverage of a major international law enforcement operation. Multiple raids are currently underway across 3 continents, targeting a sophisticated human trafficking ring. Sources say the operation was triggered by information provided by a former detective and a cybersecurity expert." I quickly muted the TV, not wanting the kids to hear any more details. But it was too late to shield them completely. "Dad," Jackson's voice quavered. Is that about Mom?" I took a deep breath, knowing I couldn't lie to them. "Yes, buddy, it is. But remember what I said? Brave people are helping her. This is part of that." As I tried to comfort my children, my phone rang. It was James. "Ethan, are you watching?" "Yeah," I replied, stepping into the other room. "What's happening? Is Lena—" "They found her," James interrupted. "She's alive, Ethan. They're bringing her back to the States now." Relief washed over me, so intense it made my knees weak. "Thank God. Is she okay?" James's hesitation spoke volumes. "Physically, she's not too badly hurt. But Ethan, you need to prepare yourself. What she's been through, it's going to take a long time for her to recover." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "I understand. What happens now?" "There will be debriefings, medical exams, probably some time in protective custody until they're sure it's safe," James explained. "It could be a while before you actually see her." "What about the kids?" I asked. "Should I tell them?" James sighed. "That's your call, Ethan. But remember, this isn't going to be some happy reunion. Lena's been through hell. She might not be ready to see them right away." As much as it hurt to hear, I knew James was right. Okay, thanks for everything, James. I mean it. Don't mention it, he replied gruffly. Take care of those kids. I'll be in touch. As I hung up, I turned to see Jackson and Mia standing in the doorway, their eyes wide with a mix of hope and fear. Was that about Mom? Mia asked softly. I knelt down, opening my arms to them. As they rushed into my embrace, I struggled to find the right words. Yes, it was, I said slowly. Mom has been found. She's safe now, but she's been through a very difficult time. It might be a while before we can see her. But she's coming home, right? Jackson pressed. I hesitated, not wanting to make promises I couldn't keep. She's coming back to the country, buddy, but we need to give her time to get better. Can you both be patient and brave for me? They nodded solemnly, and I hugged them tighter, feeling their small bodies shake with suppressed sobs. As we sat there on the floor, holding each other, I was acutely aware of how our lives had changed. The relief of knowing Lena was a live ward with the anger and hurt of her initial betrayal. And underneath it all was a gnawing uncertainty about what the future held for our fractured family. But for now, all I could do was hold my children and wait for whatever came next. The rescue was just the beginning of a long and difficult journey for all of us. Weeks passed before I received word that Lena was ready for visitors. The kids had been asking about her daily, their excitement growing with each passing day. But as I stood outside the nondescript office building where the meeting was to take place, I felt nothing but a cold knot of dread in my stomach. James appeared at my side, his face etched with concern. You ready for this? I took a deep breath, straightening my shoulders. As ready as I'll ever be. We entered the building, passing through multiple security checkpoints before being led to a small, windowless room. And there she was. Lena sat at a table, her hands folded in front of her. She looked smaller somehow, her once vibrant presence diminished. When she lifted her eyes to meet mine, I saw a haunted look that made my heart clench despite everything. Ethan, she whispered, her voice hoarse. I don't know where to begin. I sat down across from her, acutely aware of the FBI agent standing silently in the corner. How about the truth, Lena? You owe me that much. She flinched at my tone but nodded. You're right. I'm so sorry, Ethan. I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen, I replied, struggling to keep my voice level. You left us, Lena. You chose Kyle over your family. Tears welled up in her eyes. I know. God, I know. I was so stupid, so selfish. I thought I was missing out on something. But it was all a lie. I leaned forward, my hands clenched on the table. Do you have any idea what you put us through? What you put our children through? At the mention of the kids, Lena's composure crumbled. The children, she sobbed. How are they? Do they hate me? Despite everything, I felt a pang of sympathy. They miss you. They've been asking about you every day. Hope flickered in Lena's eyes. Can I see them? Please, Ethan. I know I don't deserve it, but... No, I cut her off, my voice firm. Not yet. They've been through enough already. I need to be sure you're in a stable place before I expose them to this situation. Lena's face crumpled, but she nodded slowly. I understand. You're right to protect them. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything that had happened pressing down on us. What happens now? Lena asked softly. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I had to say next. I've filed for divorce, Lena, and I'm seeking full custody of the children. Her eyes widened in shock. Ethan, please. I know I made terrible mistakes, but don't take my children away from me. You took yourself away from them, I replied, my voice cold. I'm just making it official. Lena reached across the table, trying to grab my hand, but I pulled away. Please, Ethan, give me another chance. We can work this out, can't we? For the kids. I stood up, shaking my head. I'm sorry, Lena, but I can't trust you anymore, and I won't put our children through any more pain. As I turned to leave, Lena called out, her voice breaking. I still love you, Ethan. I still love our family. I paused at the door, looking back at her one last time. Love isn't enough, Lena. Not anymore. With that, I walked out, leaving behind the woman I had once thought I'd spend my life with. As the door closed behind me, I felt a chapter of my life ending. It was time to focus on the future for me and for my children. Scene 5. Consequences. The courtroom was packed as Kyle and Monica's trial began. I sat in the back, away from the media frenzy, watching as the proceedings unfolded. The evidence against them was overwhelming, thanks in large part to James's thorough investigation. As victim after victim took the stand, recounting their harrowing experiences, I felt a mix of horror and relief. Horror at what these women had endured, and relief that Lena had been spared the worst of it. When it was Lena's turn to testify, I almost didn't recognize her. Gone was the confident, vivacious woman I had married. In her place was a shell, her voice barely above a whisper as she recounted her ordeal. "I thought it was just a vacation," she said, her eyes fixed on a point in the distance. "But once we were on the boat, everything changed. They took our phones, our passports. We were trapped." As she described the abuse and exploitation she had witnessed, I found myself gripping the bench tightly, my knuckles turning white. How could I have let this happen? The trial lasted for weeks, each day bringing new revelations about the scope of Kyle and Monica's operation. When the verdict was finally read guilty on all counts, a collective sigh of relief swept through the courtroom. Outside, reporters swarmed around the victims and their families. I slipped away unnoticed, not wanting to be part of the media circus. As I walked to my car, I spotted Lena standing alone, looking lost. For a moment, I considered going to her. But then I remembered the pain in my children's eyes, the trust that had been shattered. With a heavy heart, I turned away and drove home. The next few months were a whirlwind of legal proceedings and therapy sessions. I threw myself into my work, determined to provide stability for Jackson and Mia. Lena, I heard, had moved in with her parents to begin her long journey of recovery. One sunny afternoon, as I sat in the backyard watching the kids play, my phone buzzed with a message from James. "Thought you should know Kyle and Monica sentenced to 25 years each. No possibility of parole." I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. It was over. They couldn't hurt anyone else. As I looked up from my phone, I saw Mia running towards me, her face split in a wide grin. "Daddy, watch me on the swing." I smiled, tucking my phone away. "I'm watching, sweetheart. Show me what you can do." As I watched my daughter soar through the air, her laughter ringing out, I felt a glimmer of hope for the future. We had been through hell, but we were surviving. More than that, we were healing. Years passed, and slowly but surely, we built a new life. I focused on my career, eventually starting my own cybersecurity firm. Jackson and Mia grew into strong, resilient teenagers, their mother's absence a dull ache that faded with time. Lena and I maintained a civil relationship for the sake of the kids, but the trust and love we once shared were gone. She saw the children on supervised visits, gradually rebuilding her relationship with them. It was at one of Jackson's soccer games that I met Lily. She was another parent, cheering on her daughter from the sidelines. We struck up a conversation, and before I knew it, we were meeting for coffee after the games. Lily was different from anyone I'd ever known, kind, understanding, and patient. She had her own history of heartbreak, and she understood the complexities of blended families. Our relationship grew slowly, built on a foundation of honesty and trust. When I finally introduced her to Jackson and Mia, I was amazed at how quickly they took to her. "She makes you smile, Dad," Jackson said one night after Lily had left. "Like, really smile. We haven't seen that in a long time." Mia nodded in agreement. "Yeah, and she doesn't try to replace Mom. She's just Lily." Their words warmed my heart, easing the guilt I had felt about moving on. As the years passed, Lily became an integral part of our lives. She was there for every milestone, every triumph, and every setback. And when I finally worked up the courage to propose, her joy matched my own. Our wedding was a small, intimate affair. Jackson stood as my best man, while Mia was Lily's maid of honor. As we exchanged vows, I looked out at our gathered friends and family, marveling at the journey that had brought us to this point. In the back of the church, I caught a glimpse of Lena slipping in quietly. Our eyes met for a moment, and I saw a mix of emotions cross her face: regret, acceptance, and finally, a small smile. She nodded once, then quietly left. As Lily and I shared our first dance as husband and wife, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The past couldn't be changed, but the future was ours to shape. Later that night, as we said goodbye to our guests, I pulled Jackson and Mia aside. "Are you two really okay with all of this?" I asked, searching their faces for any sign of doubt. They exchanged a look, then Jackson spoke. "Dad, we love you. And we love Lily. You deserve to be happy." Mia nodded, her eyes shining. "Yeah, and besides, now we have the coolest stepmom ever." I pulled them both into a tight hug, overwhelmed with love and gratitude. As I watched them rejoin the party, laughing and dancing with their new stepsister, I realized that this was what healing looked like. It wasn't about forgetting the past or pretending it never happened. It was about learning from it, growing stronger, and daring to love again. Lily appeared at my side, slipping her hand into mine. "Everything okay?" she asked softly. I smiled, pulling her close. "Everything's perfect." And as we stood there, watching our blended family celebrate, I knew it was true. We had weathered the storm and come out stronger on the other side. The future stretched out before us, full of promise and possibility. It wasn't the life I had once imagined, but it was beautiful in its own way, and I was ready to embrace every moment of it. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed this story, then please make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.